now talk about Christopher Nolan, right? For the boys, eh? Let's talk about Oppenheimer and where it ranks in the Nolan rankings. We actually have done a Christopher Nolan ranking. We did a top 5 back in episode 6 in the archives of the Drive-In podcast. I went deep into our previous episodes and I recalled, I'm like, we definitely ranked Christopher Nolan movies before. And yes, we did. About 250 episodes ago. Holy shit.
Jesus.
We did a top 5. We did not do the entire filmography. I think we're going to do I think it's 12 films
12.
in his filmography. We're going to rank them 12-1. And I don't think Ricky Flicks has looked back at the results from episode 6. I have those locked away so we can refer to them after we do the rankings and see how they compare. Ricky Flicks, how are you feeling going into these rankings?
So obviously Christopher Nolan is my guy. I do think my rankings, my personal, my big board, it has changed. I know that for a fact. And I have a bias towards a couple movies just because I watched them recently. But I'm pretty sure my tiers are the same. But I remember we had a fight about Dunkirk and Interstellar and The Prestige. So like the actual rankings, I don't remember. I just know that I have my tiers, and I think my tiers are pretty much the same as before.
My rankings from 2 years ago are very different than the way they look now. That's my hint for today. Ricky Flex, you are the #1 Nolan fan. Do you want to steer the ship on this? I have my rankings too, but you are the Nolan aficionado, as stated at the beginning of this podcast, the #1 member of his fan club. So if you want to take the reins, I'm open to it. If you want to relinquish them to me, I'm also fine with it, right? But you are our Nolan guy, our correspondent.
Okay. I'll steer this ship, and then you help me out if I have a little buffer. If you see an iceberg in the coming, please tell me to venture off.
It's James Cameron, bro. It's James Cameron.
Okay, so let's just start at number 12. Okay, and I'll start off. I haven't seen The Following.
Yeah, I think it's Following. I don't even think it's The Following. I think The Following was a horror film.
It is Following. Sorry.
Yeah, it was a foreign film. It was an English film. You know.
It's an 80-minute crime thriller in 1998. His first full feature film.
Young Nolan.
80 minutes. Young Nolan.
We should do a review of that movie.
We should. It's just that's one of the few. That's another thing. I wanted to rewatch so many Nolan movies before this. None of them are streaming,
dude. It's even crazy. Tenet's not even streaming, and that has been streaming for literally 2 years on Max.
What is the deal when a movie comes out there's a movie that comes out in theaters, and you want to take a look back at that filmmaker's filmography, and they just take movies off of streaming? What is the deal with this? We live in a society. It's the most pressing time to watch the movie. The highest demand, most popular time you would go back and watch those specific movies, and you take them off streaming? It's like, okay, you want us to rent on VOD? If you don't even have me or you doing that, then who the hell is paying $20 to rent Following? Or Following's actually streaming on one of the whatever. But
your argument just collapsed on
but
itself.
It's not like one of the main streamers. It's like Tubi or something. Like Tenet. You can't go and watch Tenet. You can't go and watch Insomnia. You can't go and watch Inception. Leo DiCaprio. It's 2023 with all these streaming platforms, and we can't stream some of those popular movies in the 21st century. What society is this?
I feel like Tenet, that was a part of the deal, right? Where you can have in theater and also at home films.
Well,
or was that before?
That was during that time, but Tenet famously was not a duel.
Right.
That was the riff, because Tenet then was it was basically a flop at the box office, but it's difficult to say flop because of the times.
It made $9 million domestically in the opening weekend.
Did not do well.
It was bad. I don't care if it's a pandemic.
But then
Nolan hitting single digits domestic weekend. Holy shoot.
That's the movie that cost Nolan and Warner Brothers' relationship. So, and also hot take, I do think they will reconnect at some point.
I don't think
Warner
it's a hot
Brothers
take.
and Nolan. I think they will.
I don't think it's a hot take, because I don't know. It's just I think like because obviously Mattel with Warner Brothers with Barbie, like they both had powerhouse weekends. It's not like Barbie took away from Oppenheimer. I think if anything, it accelerated the movie.
It did.
And in that case, like why not go back? And maybe they just need a little time, blow off steam, see other people. Warner Brothers get to know Greta Gerwig. Okay. Then we have Universal getting to know Christopher Nolan, a little getaway. And then all of a sudden they find love back with one another. Would not be shocked for the next Nolan movie to be with Warner Brothers. Yeah, I haven't seen Following either. I'm lucky. I got to watch Dunkirk. It was not streaming, but I bought it like a couple of years ago. So I own it on Amazon Prime. So I could just return to that one. One of the few movies I bought on Amazon alongside Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I think those are the two I own. I think maybe Mean Girls too.
Dunkirk is streaming on Max, by the way. I did rewatch that before this one.
Oh, okay. I just know I always have it accessibility since I bought the movie. Okay.
All right, so we have our 12. It really should be NA. Like we haven't seen it. But we move on to number 11. What do you have at 11?
Insomnia. That's what I got. Small scale. Big actors. Robin Williams and Al Pacino. Kind of like the setting, I think, of True Detective Night Country coming out. I kind of get that vibe a little bit from Insomnia. Not as crazy as a Pacino performance as he was getting in the late 90s. I know this is like a 2002 film, right? Is that Insomnia?
2002.
2002. I have it back here. It's very forgettable, right? Small scale compared to like the theatrics that we get from Nolan nowadays. I don't return to it. It's streaming right now. That's a streaming movie right now, Insomnia. And I chose not to return to it just because I know it's going to be on the back half of my list. Insomnia, late.
Where is it streaming?
It's not? I feel like
I just Googled it. I don't see anything. I see rent on YouTube and all these. But
I just know I see it. I skipped over it all the time. I didn't Netflix.
Interesting. Well, okay. This is my number 10. All right. This is his first studio film. It's post Memento. This is kind of like a Memento, but without all the linear storytelling. Pacino, Robin Williams. I think Robin Williams is low-key really good in this, but limited screen time.
Creepy.
And you are right. It's basically True Detective Night Country, but instead of being dark all the time, it's light all the time. So it's the exact opposite. It's like post-Heat Pacino, right? But he's sleepy. Like
it's like the opposite of that performance.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I think that was deliberate. And again, like I think Guy Pearce in 2000 was a hot name post LA Confidential. And here, like we have like a Pacino, Robin Williams, like post Oscar wins, like doing a Nolan movie. And this movie was a remake from a 1997 Swedish movie. And it was Stellan Skarsgård breakout performance. So it's only 5 years later they do a remake of a Swedish movie. And Nolan puts his twist on it. I think it works, but it's not great compared to the rest. So
this is the classic up and coming director that like other older actors are attracted to, ones that may have won Academy Awards. This is like reminds you of Willem Dafoe. And Willem Dafoe always wants to connect with younger directors. That's what Robin Williams, Pacino were doing. They wanted to catch early on the wave because they knew this guy was going to be special, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I'm fine with it at 11 if you have what I think you have at 10. So what do you have at 10?
Tenet.
Interesting. I have Tenet at 9.
Okay, so I'll just say I have Dark Knight Rises after that.
Okay, I have Dark Knight Rises at 11.
Wow, dude, you have Dark Knight Rises after Insomnia. Dude, I don't know. Dark Knight Rises, it gets a bad... I don't know, not really. Like I think Dark Knight Rises is a very weird place in Nolan's filmography. I think if you're a cinephile, you put Dark Knight Rises on the back half. If you're a common man, you have the dumb enough take to say it potentially rivals The Dark Knight and it's better than Batman Begins. I think The Dark Knight Rises is in a very weird place in this list, this roster. I don't know. Like you had it as the second worst Nolan film.
It's bad to say second worst because these are all great, good movies at minimum.
What, the 11th best out of 12? Is that what you'd rather say?
Like... No, because all his movies are good. That's why Christopher Nolan's one of the GOATs. Like Dark Knight Rises is a good movie. It's just number 11. I think last time we did this, I think I probably had Dark Knight Rises before Insomnia. But I think just like looking at Dark Knight Rises, I always just find flaws that just like as in like just in a superhero Batman world, it just makes me upset, you know? And it's a lot crammed in. Just what happens with Gotham. We lose that like grounded story from the Dark Knight, and you're following the Dark Knight, which is not easy. And that's what we get. And I just didn't particularly love it. So I think that's why like I kind of like wanted to just make a statement, put it at number 11. But I'm fine with putting Insomnia at 11 if we put Tenet ahead of the Dark Knight Rises. Because I think Tenet is good. It's good. And tough optics, again, like we talked about, but it is good. And I think there's good performances all around. I know JDW, John David Washington, is getting a bad rap right now. Hopefully the creator changes things for him. But overall in Tenet, he is good. And it's Nolan at his craziest, and I respect it.
Dark Knight Rises is a far step down from the first two movies in the Dark Knight trilogy. To me, there's no disputing that. You're right. It takes what was the best part of Nolan's Batman and that groundedness and that realness, and then it just turns into comic book fare, where it's like, okay, this is like what you would see maybe more so in a Marvel type of film. And also, Christian Bale's not Batman for a lot of the movie, right? And it's Bane, very love-or-hate relationship that fans have with the portrayal. I actually am a fan of Tom Hardy as Bane.
Then I will break you.
Like, I don't think that's a poor part of the movie. There's a lot of plot holes in The Dark Knight Rises. How the hell is Christian Bale going from that cave in the middle of the movie and then somehow ending up in Gotham, right, by the end? How does that happen, knowing that Alfred can't save him or hasn't had any connection to him? That's one of like the things that grinds my gears. I will never forgive Marion Cotillard for that death scene at the end of the movie, at the end of the Dark Knight trilogy. Unacceptable acting. Unacceptable acting. Just absolutely putrid. Tenet. I got to be honest. I rewatch it more because I want to understand it more. That's what I like. I watch Batman Begins and Dark Knight over Dark Knight Rises. I probably watch Tenet more than Dark Knight Rises because I am on this endless pursuit to understand this movie when I know it will not give me anything in return. This is you running the show. So if you want to put Tenet above Dark Knight Rises, fine, but don't put Insomnia above Dark Knight Rises. Who's watching Insomnia anymore?
We got 12 at following, 11 Insomnia, 10 The Dark Knight Rises, and 9 Tenet. And my last thing on Tenet is just remember that first scene. Remember the opera scene.
Hey, I would say Tenet has I think they don't want you to understand the dialogue for a lot of that movie because I don't think Nolan understands it. The actors in the movie, Pattinson famously didn't understand it, right? But it's more about the spectacle. That movie was a spectacle. And as much as it bombed at the box office due to the pandemic, it was worth seeing in theaters. That was a great movie to go back on. The muffled dialogue, I have a hard time getting over, though. I do have a hard time getting over the muffled dialogue. It just doesn't. I get it. It's hard to understand, yada, yada, yada. But I just want to know what they're saying. I just want to know. I don't want to have subtitles on when I watch a goddamn Nolan movie.
I agree. And I think you're not supposed to like hear every single piece of dialogue. Like no one, I think, has said that, you know? And I think in Oppenheimer, it's the same thing. Scotty Furious after the movie, I was like, hey, how'd you like it? Like, this is my third time watching it. Like, you don't need to hear my take. Like, what's your take? And he had the same thing where like he was kind of upset. He couldn't understand some of the dialogue. But
Bullshit,
I think,
dude. Bullshit. Dude, Oppenheimer, I'm not taking this, dude. I'm not doing this again with Nolan. I don't think the dialogue was hard to hear in Oppenheimer. I don't.
I don't think it's comparable to Tenet.
You're seeing it in IMAX or Dolby. It's booming. Dude, there's other movies you're not going to hear dialogue. This was not Tenet. Oppenheimer is not Tenet. I don't want to hear the comparisons. This is a mistaken trope. Like Interstellar, sometimes you can't hear the dialogue, but I think it's intentional, just like Tenet. That's not what they're going for in a dialogue-heavy movie with Oppenheimer. Scotty Furious, I'm calling you out.
I regret even bringing it up. All right. So for me, that kind of ends that first tier of Nolan. Dark Knight Rises, Tenet, Insomnia. That kind of is like that the last tier for me. The next tier is where it starts. We're number 8. I have Batman Begins at number 8.
I had it at 7.
Okay, so I think Batman Begins is a great origin movie. We do get the groundedness of Batman. I think the Bruce Wayne of it isn't great. Like it is great towards the second act and third act. The first act, when he's like trying to kill the guy that is on trial for killing his parents, and he looks like he's going to get away. He gets away with whatever it is or gets parole. But I do love this movie. I do love Cillian Murphy and Liam Neeson in this movie. It's kind of weird because Liam Neeson just comes out of nowhere at the end again and not really developed a lot. But again, like League of Shadows, I dug that. And again, like I think overall, it kind of just gave us something where, yes, we had Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire, and Spider-Man 2 before this, but the superhero genre was really going through a tough time. Like we had Hulk, and we had the late 90s Batman movies. We had 3 different Batmen in the 90s. I just think we really needed this. So that's why I'm giving Christopher Nolan his flowers. But at the same time, I do think this is number 8 for a reason compared to the rest of his filmography.
I love this adaptation for Batman. It was the grounded approach we talked about, but also very close to the Batman Year One story, the graphic novel I love, right? And the implementation of the League of Shadows was excellent in okay, this guy could kill anyone if he wanted to, right? If he ran into them one-on-one. Christian Bale also great job playing the dual role of Bruce Wayne and Batman, hamming it up as Bruce Wayne, the best Bruce Wayne we ever got. I love how Batman Begins depicts Gotham, right? Something that they ditch in The Dark Knight. Christian Bale, seeing him as Batman, you felt a lot of comfort based on what we had in Batman previously and the hamminess of the Schumacher films. I had it here, and it's not a knock to have it ranked at number 7. It's not a knock whatsoever, right? That's how good the filmography is, right? It's on the back half of this roster, but it's top tier movie making in my eyes, comic book filmmaking.
All right, so before we make an official number here, what did you have at 8?
You're not going to agree with me, but I put Memento. I know you're a huge Memento guy. This is small scale Nolan early filmmaking. Talk about non-linear storytelling. Great performance by Guy Pearce. Okay. Very much feels like an early 2000s movie. It's great. It's not a knock. If you want to I'm a huge fan of Batman Begins. I think it's one of the best origin superhero movies ever made. But Memento, I don't return to it a lot. I understand it's incredible filmmaking. It's basically the debut film for Christopher Nolan because no one even knows the following exists. Right. And what a splash to the scene. I think of that Instagram or YouTube clip where he is drawing the plot of Memento.
The oval.
He's drawing ovals and he's drawing lines through it. And it felt like he was Oppenheimer himself at the board teaching his students with a pipe in his hand, just felt like, okay, we're watching a genius at work. Incredible movie. I love the tone of it as well, but I had it as a higher on the ranking just because I don't return to it as much.
Wow. Okay. All right. I had Memento at 6.
Okay. So,
we could find common ground. I wish initially when we were making this rankings, I had Memento as high as 4. I dropped it down to 5. And then right before recording, I dropped it down to 6. I do think Guy Pearce was robbed of an Oscar here. I think this is an unbelievable performance. And I think Guy Pearce now is kind of not looked at as a great actor. He just had a small part in Mayor of Easttown. Just being the side boy for Kate Winslet,
side boy,
not side chick,
booty
but
call.
What I don't know what you call that on the guy side, side chick, side piece for Kate Winslet. That's just Guy Pearce. This guy should have an Oscar.
You're better than this.
Yeah,
is he better than this though? He had his window. Right?
He did, and I don't think he conquered it clearly. But oh no, this is Nolan storytelling and craft at full display, and on a really small level. And I do think Carrie-Anne Moss is great in this. I think it's forgotten because what she did.
I rarely despise the character,
but that's how good she was.
She's intentionally evil, right?
And
her so messed up.
And you could say, okay, I don't think this is the best Nolan twist, but you could say this is probably number 2.
Wow. Yeah. Yes.
I think people think of Inception and Interstellar as like these crazy mind twisting stories, which they are. But if you just think of like the plot and
Pure
what
twist.
happens, this twist is all time like something you cannot like if you get spoiled and it ruins the movie the first time you watch it, you could still appreciate the movie. But like this twist is all time.
It ain't number one.
Yeah, it's not number one. Number one is we'll
Special.
get to it. We'll get to it.
Special.
But all right, so I had Batman Begins at 8. I had Memento at 6. So what did you have? And you had Batman Begins at 7, Memento at 8.
Yes.
So then what did you have in between that? Or
So
at
I had
6?
Memento, Batman Begins, and then Dunkirk.
Okay, so I had Dunkirk at 7.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. Let's make this easy.
Yes.
Just follow your list. Easy as that. That ranking.
Okay, so Batman Begins, Dunkirk, Memento. I was thinking
gonna say Batman Begins, Memento, then Dunkirk.
I think that's the trade because I'm switching I'm switching Dunkirk for you and you're switching Batman Begins for me.
Okay, can you just read off the list what
So
we
yeah,
have so
so
far?
Following at 12, Insomnia at 11, Dark Knight Rises at 10, Tenet at 9, Batman Begins at 8, Memento at 7, Dunkirk at 6.
Dunkirk's such an awesome
Rewatching that last week
War
before
movie.
Oppenheimer was perfect.
Yeah.
It was perfect. I think Dunkirk, the reason why it's not as high for me as a Memento and others is because there isn't a main character. And I think that's the reason. Like I think that's like Chris Nolan directly did that, or purposely did that because this is about the story of England. This is about
the
Dunkirk,
team,
the rally.
the team.
Yes. But it still holds back the movie from the others. It's still a great movie, but it holds it back from being higher up on these rankings. And looking back on it, it's funny because I was thinking about the time when Dunkirk came out and anyone that everyone was talking about, again, not to go back to the Oppenheimer Tenet when you can't understand anyone, but the Tom Hardy like post Bane and like into the like whatever he's saying, 15
I've got
15
him.
gallons.
I've got him.
Yeah, I got him. I'm on his tail.
He's on me. I'm on him.
And like you could barely understand him. This time I was like, I didn't really have that. I understood him the entire time, and I thought it was delightful. And I think everyone like it completed each of the like the non-linear story again at play here. It completed each one very well. And Cillian Murphy, also 2 roles in this. People forget he is 2 people in this. But
that was the nonlinear storytelling. I thought same guy.
Oh my God, was it? But
that was the point of the showing him. Like,
I didn't understand
before.
But like he was in a plane the first time. Oh, so you're saying
he was on a boat. He was leading a boat. He's leading a fleet of boats.
Right. But the other guy, when he's picked up by Mark Rylance, he's on top of a plane, and they said he got shot down. So you're saying he wasn't shot down. His boat, when it was coming back to the beach, somehow that didn't happen. But it definitely did happen.
I thought he just found the plane to float on.
Right, but the Harry Styles and that crew, they're on that boat, like on the rope. Harry Styles and the other guy.
Yeah.
So like they put a rope out to those 2 guys, Cillian Murphy's boat, and they get back to the beach.
When Cillian Murphy was like at night leading like a bunch of rowboats.
Right. Okay,
Right?
so yeah,
Hey,
it would make
no. We have to get to the bottom of this right now.
I'll Google it.
Tell me, Ricky, does he play 2 characters or 1? That'd be insane if he played 2 characters. Like he wouldn't just get another actor. Ricky
He plays the shivering soldier, but I'm not seeing a second character.
There's no way, Ricky. There's no way he plays 2 different guys. Unless he has a twin.
Okay, I think all right. I don't have a definite answer, but I think you're right because they just don't show the boat exploding.
Right. It skips ahead. That's just telling you this is happening earlier by showing him in good shape, right?
It does seem weird. He's the only one that's on because it does seem weird. No,
I think everyone just got blown up. You know, I just think he got led astray because he was leading those boats, and that might be why he's so emotionally rocked afterwards because he lost all his men that he was responsible for.
But like that boat made it back to shore, like 1,000%. It did. We saw it.
But there was a bunch of them. He wasn't leading.
Right? No, but his boat they threw out the rope to Harry Styles and the other guy, right? And they hold onto the rope, which is on Cillian Murphy's boat. And those two guys make it back to shore. So that means Cillian Murphy, who was on that boat, which the rope was attached to, made it back to shore.
It's the same guy. We can't keep doing this. It's
okay. We're getting lost in the sauce here. Dunkirk at 6. What do you have at 5?
I will also address that initially, I think when we first did this draft, I had ranking, I had Dunkirk at 3. I've gone down on Dunkirk because for the same reasons you have, it doesn't have arguably that Guy Pearce anchoring it, that Cillian Murphy anchoring the film. It doesn't have that. It's more about the collective English effort. Still, it's really kick-ass war scenes. They capture the 3 settings so well: land, sea, and air. And the dogfight sequences, Tom Hardy, badass. So badass. And Tarantino, what he says is the best shot in the 21st century is Fionn Whitehead covering his ears at the beginning as the beach is getting bombed.
16. All right. Prestige. What do you have at 5? Prestige. Again, this is the same problem as last time. This is the same thing. I have Prestige, not for a bit. What do you like about the Prestige? Let's start with that.
Ricky, it's the best. It's the thrilling feeling of watching for the first time this movie. You are standing up, sitting down, standing up, sitting down, right? The twists and turns that it takes in the final hour of this film. Christian Bale absolutely murders this. Great cat and mouse game with Hugh Jackman. Both young actors, right? With this very exciting director that's about to go on this insane run with the Dark Knight trilogy. Christian Bale is going to become arguably the definitive Batman. Young actresses, Scarlett Johansson also in this film. Who's the other actress in this? Scarlett Johansson. Who's the other one?
Hugh Jackman.
No, actress.
Oh my God.
What's her name?
I'm looking it up. I don't remember.
The one Christian Bale's with.
Yes. Rebecca Hall.
Well, Rebecca Hall, okay, just has a sense of wonder to it also by the end of it, and has kind of what we get to know Nolan with, where it's he's fascinated by technology and the future, and he somehow implements it in this turn of the century. Nikola Tesla, David Bowie in this movie, but it's the ending that does it for me. I arguably have never experienced such a thrilling ending with so many different twists. I never knew where it was going to land. I love this movie.
This movie's ending. Are you watching closely? The tagline to this movie.
Fire lines.
Amazing. And this is the best twist in Christopher Nolan's filmography, arguably the best twist in cinema. It was amazing. And then this is one of the most rewatchable movies of all time, even though the first time you'll never match the first time you watch it.
No.
But it's so
any
rewatchable.
Experience you've ever had. But you don't have to see this on the big screen to experience it. You could be on your couch and be blown away.
Yeah, the story's so complex in nature and has that wow factor, even on the rewatches, because those details from that twist at the end, it's how did I freaking miss that? And it's so freaking clever, the storytelling by Christopher Nolan and the detail, the in-depth attention to detail that I always talk about Christopher Nolan. Every word matters. Everything matters in a Christopher Nolan movie. This movie is the definition of that. This is the most Christopher Nolan movie we have, because it's also a spectacle at the same time. Hugh Jackman, you didn't mention as well. I do think Christian Bale has the more complete, but Hugh Jackman besides Logan, my favorite Hugh Jackman performance, because this encompasses his, we all think about him being the greatest showman. And he has that because of this movie and his ability as a musical act. We think about when he hosted the Oscars, performer. And when he hosted the Oscars and Anne Hathaway helped him out in that opening monologue musical number, right? This is him being on stage, being Hugh Jackman, being his true self. And no one really got that out of Hugh Jackman. He was known for Wolverine at the time. So I love that. I love the Bale versus Jackman. You have that the mano-y-mano, 1v1. James Mangold's great at that. Ron Howard, you think of Rush. This is another thing in another type of movie, another movie in that genre, and I love that. The turn of the 20th century, England magicians. This shouldn't really work as in it shouldn't be as thrilling as it is, but the psychological twist and mystery and it just has you on the edge of your seat the entire time. You are invested in it. I
They're
love
just,
this movie.
They're just one-upping each other. Like, that's the best part
Yeah.
about it. It's the rivalry between two great young actors, honestly. And Hugh Jackman, has he ever played a more unlikable character? Ever?
Like, also, that's a good point.
It's such a different type of role than we imagine Hugh Jackman in, because you're rooting for Christian Bale in this movie. I don't care what you say. At no point are you like at middle, like halfway through to the end, I'm rooting for Hugh Jackman. You're pulling for Christian Bale the entire time. I don't care what you tell me.
All right, so you have this at 5. I'm just saying right now. I think we had it. I think we probably had it at 5 last time. We got to have it higher. I'm not going to say go crazy, but we'll save that discussion, because what do you have at 4? Because maybe we can make a trade or something.
I have. This might be a new revelation. Inception.
Doctor, Inception is an unbelievable movie. Okay? But again, this is where I said off the top, the streaming element is important. After doing our deep dive in Interstellar, I think Interstellar is better now.
Yeah, we're on the same page.
I think it is. I think Interstellar, I think Matthew McConaughey versus Leo, right? I think Matthew McConaughey's character, Coop, has a more complete story to it that's explained so much better, and you're invested so much more in that versus Don Cobb.
That's the difference.
And I think the Coop element where he's trying to get back to Murph, we've had that established relationship in the first act. We don't have that established relationship with Don Cobb and his wife, and instead it's that terrible scene off the hotel room balcony that we always mock. And you're not as invested. And yes, I give credit to Nolan for that creativity and world-bending visuals and story. Again, right after The Dark Knight, unbelievable. But again, Interstellar, I think it's just a better story with its characters. And I think that gives the edge. It's similar to what we were saying with Dunkirk. It's lacking that character development and protagonist. I think in Inception, there's clearly the acting ability from everybody. Great cast, but we just don't get that much depth with any of them. We try, but it's not like Interstellar with Coop and the emotional performances for him, Anne Hathaway and Jessica Chastain and the child Murph, all great performances and emotional and depth that is actually achieved in that movie versus Inception. So I've done a 180 on this and switched Inception and Interstellar.
I feel like when people are asked what are the greatest movies since 2010, people automatically say Inception, but they do it based on the visuals, the fact that it was like Nolan's first sci-fi adventure outside of The Dark Knight, and he becomes so renowned for his sci-fi work. I think people think of the great cast that goes along with it, and they think of the incredible score, but I agree with you. I care so much more about McConaughey and him getting back to his daughter than I do about Dom Cobb seeing his kids. That's the difference. And the visuals of Inception are incredible. I think it is incredible, right? It's like the physical acting that goes with that movie also spectacular. But what he's able to pull off practically with Interstellar, it's a miracle. And you see what he can do and take what he learned from Interstellar and then implement it into Oppenheimer. It's like, how is he taking this sci-fi space epic and taking those elements and putting it into this biopic that takes place in 1945? To me, that's nuts. And only Christopher Nolan can do that, right? Inception, special movie, one of the best theatrical experiences I've ever had. But Interstellar is a better movie. Also, McConaughey, to me, is better than Leo in Inception.
I would agree.
Ricky, I think let's do this right now. Best performances in Nolan movies. Go. Give me your top 3.
Ledger. So Heath Ledger. I'm a Guy Pearce guy, dude. I think Guy Pearce, Cillian, and Matthew McConaughey are all vying for that top 3. So that's my top 4.
I like that Guy Pearce shout. Let's just make it a top 5 for fun and pick another guy.
And then Bale, 5.
Bale, Prestige. Yes, not for Dark Knight, not for any of the Batman films. Bale,
Yes.
Prestige. Yes, yes, yes.
All right. So
are you watching closely? Let's go.
all right. So all right. I'm just gonna say I know I'm not gonna get away with this. I just needed Prestige is my number 2, really 3. So let's just do this. You give me Prestige at 4. We put Inception at 5. Interstellar at 3.
Because Oppenheimer's 2, bro.
Oppenheimer. All right. So let's just again.
As long as you give me Oppenheimer 2, I'm okay.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. So all right. So Inception at 5. We'll go the Prestige at 4.
Wow, Inception 5. I can't believe how the mighty have fallen.
Interstellar at 3. Oppenheimer at 2. Okay, Doc. I think this is a good time to kind of do a little hangover of Oppenheimer. So, like, we had our great deep dive into Oppenheimer on Monday's episode, but I guess overall thoughts again. Maybe a quick synopsis of your thoughts, but also like anything else you want to get away here with Oppenheimer.
I just didn't have many flaws with the movie, man. The more I think about it, here are my basic flaws with the movie. Sex scene, one of the worst I've ever seen. But strangely, it was done in such a way, there's got to be some artistic intention that I just have no idea what was going through Nolan's mind. And it might make all the sense in the world. I just will never understand it. And it actually makes the movie a little bit more interesting, that terrible sex scene. Also, the JFK line feels like a throwaway MCU Marvel line where it's like the John F. Kennedy is the man behind it, right? It's like, oh, here comes the next hero in the MCU. Very Hollywood-esque. That's pretty much the only 2 complaints I have about the movie. Third act does slow down, but you need the third act to describe the downfall of Oppenheimer. This movie was not about the atomic bomb. This is about the man who created the atomic bomb and the toll that it took on him. That's what people are pissing me off when they're saying I could do without the third act. You also need it, right? Because you have the interwoven Robert Downey Jr. storyline that is going through the first and second act of the movie, which is interwoven so seamlessly. It also subverted expectations with this is going to be a movie about all these atomic bombs going off, and then it becomes this communist Red Scare movie, and you have this heavy dialogue that Christopher Nolan has been attacked for being incomprehensible or inaudible, and he makes it arguably the most intriguing part of the movie, along with the editing and the effects that go along with that dialogue. This is a biopic that, as long as the movie is, I will be rewatching it. I will be seeing it in theaters at least 2 more times. I'm telling you now. I will see it. I've seen it in IMAX. I've seen it in Dolby. I'm going to see it in standard definition. I'm going to go back to arguably Dolby or IMAX. I don't care. I got to see in all different formats. Nolan's a genius. Only he could have pulled off this movie. Check out our review. This is number 2. Will never be number 1, though.
It can't be number 1, but this is all around probably Christopher Nolan's most complete movie.
Yes.
And that's why I said Prestige. I love Prestige. It's besides Dark Knight, my favorite. My second favorite. But Oppenheimer is a complete movie. And it has the performance, Cillian, perfect person to play it. Christopher Nolan said when he was reading American Prometheus and there was a picture of Oppenheimer staring. It was that's Cillian Murphy. Totally buy that. And he gives such an emotional performance without any crying scenes. He probably had one after the death of Florence Pugh's character, but overall, amazing performance. Gonna win an Oscar. How many Oscar wins? I don't think Christopher Nolan led movie or Christopher movie. The lead has ever won an Oscar, right? Heath Ledger supporting. So this is big for Christopher Nolan, right? And I think overall, this movie is so rewatchable. Like you said, it gets better the more you watch it. And it's a biopic period piece about such an important topic. It's going to stay with you. I love it. I think if I do have nitpicks that we didn't mention on the pod last time are 2. 1, they kind of overlook his study on the black holes, the dead stars that they talk about, which should have gotten him a Nobel Prize. Again, it's the day that it's published. It's the day the Germans
so quickly.
Yeah, it was very quick. They just breezed by it. It would have gotten him a Nobel Prize if he wasn't allegedly a communist. So that's 1. But I think the bigger nitpick is they overlooked the Great Depression by a lot. And how that made communism pre-World War II, like, and all these people's psyche, like about communism pre-World War II, they thought communism was amazing, not because when they looked at the Soviet Union, again, this was pre-internet, right? They thought the Soviet Union, like everyone had jobs and everyone had money and like everything was fair and nice. You know, it wasn't knowing the realities that Stalin was killing millions of like Russians.
They touched upon it briefly, and I think like they're expecting you to have a little bit of common knowledge. Like it's not just that they have
But-
Soviet, like
Mhm.
they don't have Soviet loyalties. They just have been done so wrong by their government. They want to change. Like actually, Emily Blunt I think says that in the movie.
She does. But I think when you say communism, you immediately think Soviet Union. So that's like I think that's just a trigger word. You know, it's like a synonym, even though it's not. That's like my only thing. I was like, you know what? On the rewatches, I totally think that's a fair nitpick. Again, not a critique.
It's not their responsibility to explain that in my eyes.
Yeah. Okay.
I was gonna say I take back. I said this is the most complete Nolan movie. I think it's right there with it's tied with The Dark Knight. I don't think it's the most complete.
I think a superhero movie is different. You know, I'm putting that at a different level. It's the most like Dark Knight is complete too. I'm just saying, no Oppenheimer, non-superhero movie, action movie, like yeah, like this is like it has the score, it has the editing, has the action, the atomic bomb detonation scene, the suspense, the acting of the acting, the script. I think it's all put together incredibly well. And like think about all the sub characters, the minor characters in this movie. They're all perfect. They're like all in era, like his best performance ever, probably.
It's the best acted Nolan movie ever.
Yeah, RDJ, amazing. It's not his best, but like it's amazing. Like again, post Iron Man, Nolan, post Tenet. Like this is his comeback after Tenet. Like amazing. Emily Blunt, you could say like she's been great in other stuff. And again, not a lot of screen time, as in not like being sober in this movie. But when she is, she's a powerhouse. And you have people claiming that she might get a Best Supporting nom. So I think, yeah, you get the best acting you've ever gotten in a Christopher Nolan movie, mixed with all those other technical elements. It's just all on stage here. Sure, maybe those things, like we've had a better performance, Heath Ledger, we said it earlier, and other ones. We had better technical achievements, Interstellar, Inception. But all in all, the most complete of all those elements, I think, is Oppenheimer outside of The Dark Knight, really.
I like how Interstellar, the effects are so large scale. And he was like doing the effects at such a small scale, but having such an impact in Oppenheimer. And that's just like him having full command of the movie. You know, it's just like I can still be who I am, but also make this dialogue heavy type of film. This character study basically of Oppenheimer. It's not touching The Dark Knight though. This is what we call an untouchable. Like you could have Christopher Nolan make the greatest movie since Citizen Kane, and it will not break the number one on this ranking. Will not touch it. Untouchable.
It is what it is. You know, it's the movie. It's a movie that changed the 21st century. You know, the superhero era. You know, it changed it. It changed the genre, and it's something that we're looking to do today. You know, and we just can't beat it, and I don't think we ever will.
The most rewatchable movie of all time.
We've said rewatchable a lot for all these movies because they are like he might be the king of Mr. Rewatchable. Like,
I can watch this 30 days in a row.
It's that good, and again, it's a genre it's a superhero movie, but you have people that hate superhero movies who love this movie. You have people that love superhero movies that love it for its non-superhero elements. It's an amazing accomplishment, and today, if it came out today, it would be nominated for Best Picture.
Change the category.
It did. Like it opened up the doorway for superhero movies to get nominated.
Yeah, there's just it's my favorite movie of all time. That's why it will never be broken in this list. It's a superhero movie that doesn't feel like a superhero movie a lot of the time, aside from the guy dressed up like a bat
and a guy dressed up as a clown.
But the guy dressed up like a clown feels like a legitimate terrorist. He feels real, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously you lose a little bit of Gotham City from Batman Begins, and you want to make it, we talk about like the comparisons to Heat back in 95 with Michael Mann and the one-on-one between like De Niro, Pacino, Batman, Joker, taking place in the daylight. So I think it takes away a lot from like what the first Batman, the first Dark Knight trilogy, Batman Begins had. But I mean, man, it's arguably the greatest acting performance of the 21st century as well, with Heath Ledger. So it's just there's just too much going on. You have the filmmaking, but also the acting and powerhouse performance of Joker in that movie. It's the most splendid movie of my lifetime. I'll say it. I love it.
Yeah, off the top of my head, 21st century performances: Ledger, Daniel Day-Lewis, There Will Be Blood. Same year, No Country for Old Men, Harvey Bardem, you could say. Jesse Eisenberg's Social Network.
That's a push.
I love it.
Eisen.
More about the script. But yeah, it's up there, man.
Yeah, There Will Be Blood for sure. Like most important, or maybe just a masterclass. Is that what we're looking for? Just a masterclass?
Yeah, just like best, the best. I think it's got to be top 5.
Bardem, you're right. No Country for Old Men. Trying to think if there's anything else that sticks out. It's at that level, that iconic.
Like Leo has like some great ones. I think it's just more his body of work.
Leo, I don't think has a role that touches those.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
That's God. It's good. It's S tier. It's God level.
Yeah, and like Bale is similar. The fighter, I guess you would say for Bale. Like I don't know, the movie kind of holds it down.
Yeah, movie doesn't elevate it. Like,
so
No Country for Old Men also like classic. There Will Be Blood.
Yeah,
classic.
so I would say Ledger. It's just Christopher Nolan's the king of the rewatchables. Like he almost all his movies are rewatchable. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So Dark Knight at number 1. It is what it is.
Read the list.
You knew, if you're listening to this podcast, and this is not your first rodeo, like you knew this was going to happen. So let's just run down the list real quick. Following at 12/NA, Insomnia at 11, Dark Knight Rises at 10, Tenet at 9, Batman Begins at 8, Memento at 7, Dunkirk at 6, Inception at 5, The Prestige at 4, Interstellar 3, Oppenheimer 2, The Dark Knight at 1. Dr. O, what was our top 5 last time?
All right, let's pull it up. I think I agree more and more with Eisenberg, to be honest. Now I'm reflecting on the greatest performance of the 21st century. It's not a bad one. Bad one.
The script is better than the performance and the story, like how he puts that story together. I will admit that, but I just think the way Eisenberg delivers Mark Zuckerberg is amazing.
I was thinking Gary Oldman, Winston Churchill. It's also still not there. The movie's not there.
All right. So what was our top 5?
5, we had Memento. Number 5, we had Memento. Number 4, we had The Prestige. Number 3, we had Interstellar. Number 2, we had Inception. And number 1, we had The Dark Knight. A lot of fluctuation here. We got a newcomer to the top 5. Inception dropping to 5. Memento dropping back. We are different people now, Ricky.